Would you buy a car right now? COE prices hit their highest ever, breaking a 28-year record. Frustration for commuters on the Thomson-East Coast Line after a signal fault causes trains to stop running. It's 5:30 p.m. here in Singapore. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss an episode. Those looking to buy a car now may want to hold their horses and their horsepower, with the COE premium in the open category hitting an all-time high. The open category, or category E, which tends to be used to register larger cars, coming in at $110,524. This is 5.9% higher than the previous exercise 2 weeks ago. This is the third tender in a row that prices have breached the $100,000 mark. Premiums also climbing in the other categories. COEs for Category A cars up by 4% to just over $78,000, while the premium for larger cars in Category B is now at $107,800. Senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan tells us what this means.
Today's price actually breaks the record, the previous record in 1994, almost 30 years ago, when big car COE hit $110,500 in November and open category hit $105,000 a month earlier. But of course, if we take a value of money view, $110,000 in 1994 is roughly equivalent to $200,000 today. So from that perspective, there might still be some room for COE to climb. Now, this is more so when Singapore's population has grown substantially since 1994, and affluence has also risen. On the other hand, disposable income may not have risen by the same quantum. I mean, our salaries have not doubled, or at least not all our salaries have doubled in that time, given that cost of homes is also 2 to 4 times what it was in the 1990s. So the burden on consumers today, barring the very wealthy who have much higher spending thresholds and those for whom cars are beyond reach, I think for the rest of us, the burden is hefty, right? And what this means, of course, is that people who do not own a car yet, or who had planned to buy a car within the next 2 years, might find that cars are actually beyond their reach now. For those who already own cars and who are thinking of trading in for another car, well, the good news is that resale values have also gone up, so the barrier to entry to another car might not be as high. Now, of course, with lending rates climbing, that kind of skews things a bit as well, because if you sell high and buy high, you will still be saddled with a loan that is costlier than before.
We'll have more from Christopher in a short while, because for the third time in 4 months, there's a disruption to train services along the Thomson-East Coast Line. These signs greeting commuters when they arrived at Caldecott Station this morning, showing the disruption to services between Woodlands North and Caldecott in both directions. Shortly after, SMRT reported a signal fault at Woodlands North at around 8:25 a.m. A queue started forming outside Caldecott Station when commuters were told that free bus and bridging bus services would be available. But the first bridging bus arrived over an hour later. The first time services on the TEL were disrupted was on April 27th, when 50 commuters were stuck in a stalled train for more than 1.5 hours due to a train fault. Less than a month later, on May 19th, a signal fault caused the slowing down of trains, resulting in longer waiting times. And today, signal issues as well, causing disruptions along the entire line, leaving commuters stuck on stalled trains. Services were restored after 3.5 hours at around 11:35 a.m. Senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan joins us now. Chris, what is a signal fault and what causes such failures?
Now, essentially, a signaling system allows trains to communicate In essence, it is a safety system which allows trains to travel while keeping a safe distance from each other. When there is a signaling fault, the most prudent thing to do, or you can do, is to suspend service. Otherwise, you might end up with collision, which was a worst case scenario, and which was what happened in the East-West Line in 2017. Now, trying to continue service by driving the trains manually requires you to reduce speed drastically. Now, from a service point of view, this is not tenable because journey times will be very, very long. Now, for someone who takes a train from Woodlands to town, that can be very, very frustrating.
This Thomson-East Coast Line is the newest train line with just 9 stations right now. Chris, is it concerning then that it's already riddled with so many issues so early in its lifetime? And what does this mean for its future, especially when more wear and tear occurs?
Well, briefly, yes, it is concerned. It is the newest line. And the sad thing is that if it were included in our real reliability statistics, it may well turn out to be the least reliable MRT line this year. I mean, we have had at least 3 reportable glitches in the last 4 months. Now, going by past experiences, this could be signs of a systemic flaw, a more serious flaw, which requires attention. Now, if it is a systemic flaw and if it isn't rectified, commuters could face another major breakdown down the road, like the one in 2020, which affected 3 lines. Now, that was along the East-West Line, along a new stretch from Joo Koon to Tuas, if you remember. It was caused by a fault, which we have yet to determine whether it was a manufacturing defect or a flaw that surfaced during the first few months of operation. Whatever it is, I think SMRT should really get down, SMRT and LTA should get down to it and examine the signaling system on the Thomson-East Coast Line properly to see whether there is a systemic issue.
Looking ahead, moving forward, what can authorities do to prevent future faults?
Right. When something breaks down, it is either not well maintained or not well built. I mean, it is a simplistic conclusion, but going by past MRT incidents, it is not inaccurate. So I would imagine that if you want to prevent something like this from happening and from happening so frequently with a new line, you have to examine maybe your design procedures, your procurement procedures, your construction procedures, to see if there are any gaps that can be plugged. I think when something is not well built, it will take a lot of effort to actually maintain it in good shape. If something is built well, it will take less effort to maintain well.
Chris, thank you for your insights. Senior Transport Correspondent Christopher Tan. More people got married and divorced last year following a turbulent 2020, which disrupted both nuptials and breakups. Over 28,300 civil and Muslim marriages were registered in 2021, 25.1% more than the year before. The Department of Statistics attributes the rise to the easing of COVID-19 measures. Divorces in 2021 are rising 13.4% with nearly 7,900 dissolutions granted. This is due to the resumption of divorce proceedings that were previously adjourned in 2020. During the circuit breaker, the family justice courts heard only urgent and essential cases. The general divorce rates, though, still lower than a decade ago. Moving on to the latest in the Felicia Teo case, the court hearing for the suspect Ahmad Daniel Muhammad Rafai is adjourned for a pre-trial conference on August 5th for parties to resolve issues. That's according to his lawyer. Ahmad Daniel was originally charged in 2020 with murdering Ms. Teo. Last week, he was given a discharge not amounting to an acquittal, with the murder charge replaced with 6 lesser offences. He was expected to plead guilty to a number of them today, including depositing her corpse in a public place. Australia Foreign Minister Penny Wong is in Singapore for a 2-day visit, 2 months after she was appointed to the post following the Labour Party's win in the federal election. At a press conference with Singapore's Foreign Affairs Minister Vivian Balakrishnan, Ms. Wong says Australia's future and security lie in this region. Meanwhile, Dr. Balakrishnan reaffirms the long-standing partnership between the two countries, which he describes as having a huge reservoir of strategic trust.
The new Australian government has made very clear we see our future in this region. We see our security in this region. That is why we will bring a deep engagement to our relationship with this region. And it is a shared vision or shared interests about the nature of the region we want. One which is governed by rules and norms so that behaviour is predictable, and one that is peaceful, prosperous and stable, one in which sovereignty is respected. And we look forward to continuing to work with Singapore to that end.
Singapore and Australia are long-standing natural partners, and partners with what I would describe as a huge reservoir of strategic trust. We tend to see the world through similar perspectives, for instance, on the need to maintain an open and inclusive regional order, our mutual belief in the constructive value and importance of free trade, and of course, the rule of law. Our relations encompass the whole spectrum of interactions and have in more recent years been anchored especially by the comprehensive strategic partnership.
Dr. Balakrishnan highlighting the Green Economy Agreement as well, which was announced last October. Dubbed a world-first agreement that combines trade, economic and environmental objectives. Among other things, it aims to remove non-tariff barriers to trade in environmental goods and services and accelerate the uptake of green technology. Dr. Balakrishnan says officials from both sides have met about 10 times so far, but he declined to give a timeline when negotiations are expected to conclude. In other news, Robert E. Crimo, the accused gunman in the Independence Day parade shooting near Chicago, has been charged with 7 counts of murder. Speaking in Chicago a day after the incident, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris renewed calls for an assault weapons ban. She also visited the scene at Highland Park and addressed its residents directly.
Well, to the community of Highland Park, I bring you condolences from President Joe Biden and from our country. I'm so sorry for what you all have experienced and the pain, the suffering. This should never have happened. We talk about it being senseless. It is senseless. It is absolutely senseless. I want for you that you hold each other tight as a community, that you know that you have a whole nation who cares deeply about you and stands with you.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will face questions from MPs in Parliament today, following a wave of resignations, including by his finance and health ministers, and with some members of his Conservative Party plotting to force another vote of confidence. Mr. Johnson's political survival isn't guaranteed. He's been plagued by recent scandals, the latest being his appointment of an official accused of sexual misconduct. Those are our top stories today. Don't forget to subscribe to us by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. See you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.